Before esports stadiums, before Twitch, before battle royales and loot boxes, there was a mod, a Half-Life mod, built in a bedroom, and it changed gaming forever. Today we sit down with the legendary Min Lee, aka Gooseman, the man who co-created CounterStrike, the game that redefined first-person shooters, spawned a global culture, and became one of the most played games in history. If you've ever thrown a flash, planted a bomb, or lost a 1v1 with zero point 0.1 seconds on the clock, this one's for you. You were born in Vietnam and later moved to Canada. How did that journey shape you as a person and as a creator?
So I think growing up in Canada was a good opportunity for me because when I grew up, I was exposed to many different types of media. So in Canada, it's like America. We're very liberal. We get to watch movies, or my parents, they allow me to like consume like media from movies, and we had access to video games, and so I grew up watching a lot of like action movies like Rambo, Rocky, and all those movies that were popular in the 80s and 90s. And also my father was he was very much into computer technology, so he would always buy the latest computer hardware. So we were able to play on like the very early computer PCs, for example, the Commodore 64, and then after that we kind of moved on to the very first PC, which was it was called the 286 at the time. And so basically this was made by Intel, and so it was just an amazing piece of technology that really introduced us to a whole new world of video games, actually, because prior to the 286 we were playing on some pretty primitive hardware. So when the 286 came out, we were able to really experience games that were kind of a step above from what we had played before. So growing up as a kid, I was into gaming since I was 8 years old. So I was exposed to many different types of games. See, because back then in the early 80s, there wasn't that many games around. It's not like what we have today on Steam, where we have like millions of games, and it's like impossible to play all of them. But back in the early 80s, there was probably only like maybe like hundreds of games, maybe even less than 100. So it was actually pretty it was feasible for me to kind of play pretty much all of the popular games that were out there. And so I was exposed to different types of genres, like RPG games, like action games, flight simulators, strategy games. So yeah, I was just playing all different types of games, and so I just grew up playing games ever since I was 8, and so I was heavily influenced by just the gaming culture, and just all the different types of games that came out. And so yeah, that was basically my background. And then when I became when I turned like 19 years old, I had the opportunity to make a mod called CounterStrike, and so I was able to kind of use a lot of the experience that I had from just playing games and also just making small mods before that. And so I used all of that experience and all of those influences to kind of shape the game that eventually became CounterStrike. And so yeah, that was really the kind of like the motivation and just the influences that kind of helped me to create CounterStrike.
Did you always want to become a game developer? Or was it something that developed naturally through your interests in programming?
Yeah, so basically I never envisioned to be a game developer. I actually started doing game development as a hobby, just like as something kind of like basically just as a side hobby that I would kind of work on alongside my school, because I was still in high school and basically just starting to enter university, and so I was taking university to become a computer science programmer. So basically, I had the idea of just graduating from university and working at like a software company, so like Microsoft or something like that. And so I never really imagined myself becoming a game developer until CounterStrike became popular, and then and that's the point where I realized I could sort of make this into a career. When Valve were the very first ones to actually approach me and basically ask me if they wanted me to work for them, and so at that point I was awestruck because I was a huge fan of Valve, and I was just just like everyone at the time, everyone loved Valve games, and so I kind of held them in such a high regard, and so I was really just honored that they would ask me to come and work for them, and so that was basically the point at which I realized I'm gonna try to become a game developer and basically just work at Valve and just kind of continue to do what I was doing as a hobby, but kind of turn it into a career. So basically that was the point at which I really felt that I could actually become a game developer, because yeah, prior to that, like when I was like 15 or like 14 years old, and I was just kind of doing it on the side, I never really thought that I would be good enough to make a game. So it was a nice surprise to know that I could turn my passion into a career.
Can you take us back to 1999? What was the original vision behind CounterStrike when you started working on it as a Half-Life mod?
So prior to starting CounterStrike, I actually had worked on previous mods before, as I mentioned. So one of the mods that I worked on before was a game called Action Quake 2, and so this mod was created on the Quake engine. So Quake is a game that's kind of like it's an FPS game, but the setting of Quake is actually quite different than Half-Life. It's kind of takes place in kind of like this fantasy sci-fi setting. So it took a lot of work for us to work on Action Quake, because Action Quake was a game that was supposed to be set in a very modern time setting. So because we were making the game on the Quake engine, we had to do a lot of work to change the graphics to make them look more like realistic. So when Half-Life got released, and I played it, I started quickly realized that this setting for Half-Life was perfect for a game that I wanted to create, because I wanted to create a game that was set in like a realistic setting, and so I wanted the graphics to be realistic, and I wanted like a lot of the buildings to be based in like kind of like a modern setting, and so I quickly decided to make CounterStrike on the Half-Life engine, because I felt like it was a game that looked very similar to what I wanted to achieve with CounterStrike, and so yeah. Also, another reason why I chose the Half-Life engine was it was actually a very good engine for like in terms of like the tools. Like they released this toolkit called it was like an SDK, so it allowed like modders like myself to really change a lot of the different features of Half-Life, and so the toolkit that they released, that they gave to us like modders, it was so powerful that it really allowed me to kind of change Half-Life in any way that I imagined. So yeah, I basically I just took a lot of the ideas that I had for CounterStrike. So I had a lot of passion for like police, like tactical shooters like Rainbow Six. So I was really passionate about that particular theme. And so I really thought that it would be great to have a game that was kind of focused on that theme. So kind of like Rainbow Six, but more fast-paced, because Rainbow Six is a very slow and very tactical game, and it's not very. It can be a little bit boring for some players. So I wanted to make a game that was more fast-paced and more engaging for like mainstream players. So players who like Quake, they can potentially play CounterStrike and kind of enjoy it. But I wanted to make the game based on counter-terrorists, because I felt like it's a very cool theme, and for me it just kind of felt very very exciting to play a game based on that particular theme. So yeah, that's really the motivation for me to create CounterStrike, and this is yeah.
What was your development setup like in those early days? How much of CS was built from scratch versus modified assets?
Oh yeah, so basically, because the Half-Life engine has a lot of graphics that kind of take place in a modern setting, we were able to use a lot of the graphical assets that Half-Life already had. Like for example, a lot of the textures for the buildings. We used a lot of that. Like in fact, the very first version of Counter-Strike, the beta 1 version, a lot of the maps that we made for that, they used like textures from Half-Life. So it didn't require us to make like completely new textures, and so that saved us a lot of time, and we were able to create levels quite quickly because we were able to kind of like take a lot of the assets from Half-Life and kind of like reuse them for a lot of the levels in Counter-Strike. But the things that I did have to create from scratch were like the weapon models, like a lot of the realistic guns like MP5, M4, USB. So all of that was created from scratch, and I basically used like Photoshop and like basically had to hand draw a lot of the textures. And I also created a lot of the models from scratch as well. I mean, I created all of the models from scratch. So like a lot of the weapon models and the character models, they were created in 3D Studios Max, and I also used Photoshop to texture them. And so yeah, those were the main tools that I use, like 3D Studios, Photoshop, and yeah, that's about it. Because back then creating textures was quite primitive. It's not like what we have today, where we have like Substance Painter and we have like all these other tools that help us. Back then it's really just you just had like 3D Studios Max and just Photoshop, and those are the two main things that we use to create the textures. And so the levels themselves, they were created using the level editor that came with Half-Life. It was called Hammer. And so basically the map designers, they basically use that to basically just create the levels. And so yeah, that was basically our workflow basically. So it was basically just myself creating all the weapon models, the characters, programming everything. So the programming was done in C++, and so basically it was all just programmed by myself. And then my partner Jess Cliffy, he would handle like the community engagement. So he was the one responsible for reaching out to mappers and asking them to, hey, would you create a map for Counter-Strike? And and basically, so he was responsible for asking the mappers to kind of create these maps, and then they would submit them to Jess Cliffy, and basically he would kind of like evaluate them and to kind of decide whether or not this map had potential, and then he would pick like maybe 10 or 12 maps, and then he would we would test them together with myself and a few other playtesters. And then we would basically just pick which maps we felt had potential to be included in the next version of Counter-Strike. So that was how we found our maps. And so like I remember when Counter-Strike was at its peak of popularity, we were getting like maybe 100 maps submitted to us like every week. So Cliffy had to kind of like go over all of these maps and just pick the ones that were the best. And so it was a fun time because I really enjoyed like just checking out these new maps, and it was really exciting to play like these cool new maps. And so yeah, that's how all these great maps that were created, like CS Siege, DE-DOS, all of them were just created by the community. Like people in the community, they would just submit maps to us.
The game introduced revolutionary tactical multiplayer design from hostage rescue to bomb defusal. Was that intentional from the beginning, or did it evolve through playtesting and community feedback?
So the very first scenario that we had was hostage rescue. So that was the very first mission. And the bomb defusal mode, I think that one came about around like beta 3. And so yeah, these game modes that we came up with, they kind of came internally from. Basically, I would just kind of read about counter-terrorists. I would read about what they were involved in. So obviously, when you read about counter-terrorists, you'll come to the conclusion that most of the time they're responsible for things like hostage rescuing, like escorting the VIP, like bomb defusal. So these types of things. So I just wanted to create I wanted to make those objectives and just make them fun in a mission. And so basically, that was basically just the reasoning behind creating those game modes. And so some of the game modes worked quite well, and then some of the other ones they weren't really balanced. Like, for example, we had one game mode where you had to escort a VIP through the map, and it was very difficult to make that game mode very fun because it was very unbalanced. It was very hard for the counter terrorists, and so so eventually that game mode didn't become so popular. So yeah, as time went on, we realized that the most popular game modes were the hostage rescue and the bomb diffuser. But eventually, bomb diffuser became like the #1 game mode because it was such a balanced game mode. It was a very good game mode for like esports to kind of flourish.
What were some of the biggest technical challenges you faced building Counter-Strike on the Gold Source engine?
Yeah, the Gold Source engine. Yeah, well, at the time I was very young, so I didn't have a lot of experience with some. I had some problems with some of the more technical aspects. So, for example, I remember at one point I tried to implement vehicles, but that didn't really come about very well. So, but yeah, there was. I guess it's hard for me to pinpoint one particular feature that I had trouble with, but I think it was all just kind of a learning experience for me that I was kind of like figuring like how to do these certain features, and I did get a lot of help from the community, like of other modders. Like, so I would actually contact some other modders and ask them, hey, how did you implement that feature, or like, can you know? So they would kind of give me some suggestions on how I could create this. But I remember one of the funniest bugs that we had was like the artificial intelligence, the AI for the hostages. It was really poor. It was not so good. And I remember one bug where we can have the player, like as a player, you can actually jump on top of the hostages, and so you can quickly, repeatedly jump. And so as you were jumping, the hostage would actually follow you vertically, which doesn't make any sense, but he would just follow you vertically. And so if you jump really fast enough, you can actually fly all the way up to the sky. And so that was a really funny bug, because on some maps, when you jump past the sky, you end up hitting some kind of a boundary, and so you can actually end up walking along the sky. And so there was one map called CS Assault where a lot of players, they would just take the hostages, jump them all the way up to the sky, and then they would end up in the sky, and the other team couldn't see the player, and so the player in the sky, he would just like shoot down from like God or something. And it was really funny because, like, you know, people were just getting killed by bullets from the sky. So yeah, I mean, it's just stupid little bugs like that I remember a lot, because I was such a poor programmer that I couldn't really figure out how to fix things. So we ended up having a lot of funny little bugs. But yeah, I mean, I can't really think of one particular feature that really challenged me the most. I mean, yeah, the Gold Source engine was it was a pretty good engine to work with. It had, like, the networking on it was actually very good. I didn't really have to change anything with the networking, because the Gold Source engine had a really good networking and the coding, so that was done very well. The physics engine on the Gold Source engine was terrible, though. It didn't really have a good physics engine. So you'll notice in the very early versions of Counter-Strike, there wasn't really any physical objects to interact with. And whenever there was, they didn't really behave very realistically. Like we didn't have any barrels falling over or anything like that, because yeah, it didn't have a really good physics engine. It wasn't until like the Half-Life or the Half-Life 2 engine, the Source engine, that's when the physics became really much more realistic. So, but yeah, I can't. Other than that, I can't really think of any huge hurdle that I had to overcome. It was a pretty smooth development, actually, to be honest. When I think about it, it's only when I tried to like implement the vehicles that I really had a big problem with, and I eventually just kind of gave up on it.
Can you share a story or a moment where you realized the mod was exploding in popularity?
Yeah, I mean, like, so in the early days, one of the things was we didn't. So the one way for us to generate revenue was actually was through ad revenue from our website. So we had this website, and it was hosted by some other website called Planet Half-Life. And one of the cool things is, on our website, we would have these ad banners, and And so I remember as the game started to gain popularity, we were getting a lot of money from the ad revenue. And I believe at one point, the highest point, at the most successful point of our of the game, we were making like maybe $20,000 a month from ad revenue. And so that was a lot of money for like someone like who was 19 in university. And so we were getting really excited. We were like, wow, this is so much money. Like we're making more money than having like a full-time job. So it almost felt like we were actually, like we already had like a job, and it was just, and so it was really cool just to kind of see the ad revenue grow like that. But unfortunately, at one point, the ad revenue just kind of like went down like this. It just blew up because of the .com boom. I don't know if you remember this, but in 2000, there was this .com boom, and so all of the money in the technology sector, from like websites, from advertising, it just vanished. It disappeared. It was crazy. It was really crazy because so basically at one point we were making like $20,000 a month, and then after the boom, our ad revenue just went down to like, I don't know, like maybe $2,000 a month. So it just dropped like so much, and so we were really kind of sad because of that. We were like, oh shoot, we like, it just felt like we just lost like our golden goose basically. So that was kind of a sad time. And I mean, I guess that happened around like beta 3 or something, beta 4. So it was about like 8 months after Counter-Strike was first released. So yeah, but still, the game was still popular though. I mean, people were still enjoying the game. They loved the game. It's just the ad revenue that we were getting from the website, it wasn't just as high. But the game itself was growing like it was growing exponentially. And so that really motivated us to just continue to just make the game really good and better. And so eventually Valve reached out to us, and then that's kind of when we realized the game was going to be a big hit.
The CS community was essential to the game's growth. How did you engage with players during the beta stages?
Oh, so we use this tool called IRC. It's called Internet Relay Chat. It's basically the same as Discord. It's basically like Discord. So you would join these servers, and then in the server you would join a channel. And so we had a channel called CounterStrike, and so all of our fans, all of our community, they would join this channel, and they can communicate with us live, like Discord. And so yeah, we were just, that was one main way of communicating. And we also had forums. We had like on our website we had like a message board where players can just post feedback. And so I was the message boards, the IRC. Those were the two main channels for us to communicate with the community. To communicate with the teammates, like for example, my partner Jess Cliffy, and also the mappers themselves, we used a tool called ICQ. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but ICQ was basically the equivalent of today's like Skype, or actually, yeah, it's basically just a messaging system. It's basically, I mean, I guess it's like Discord, but not the same, because it's more one-on-one. So you have to add. It's like WhatsApp. It's basically WhatsApp. So basically, we communicated using this tool, and we would just send our feedback and basically just talk to each other through ICQ. The email, we did have email, but email was mostly just to talk to the press. Like, so whenever we wanted to talk to like a website, like like PC Gamer or something like that, we would just contact them through email. So yeah, those were the main tools that we used to just communicate with the community, get their feedback, and kind of just trying to get an understanding for what they feel about the game. Because back then Steam was actually very actually Steam didn't even come out until 2003 or 2. Yeah, Steam actually came out after Counter-Strike became popular. So we didn't have Steam. We didn't have anything to really just a proper way to connect with our community. It was really just through our message boards and IRC.
Were you surprised by the competitive scene that was growing around Counter-Strike so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I never, when we first created Counter-Strike, we never really we never really tried to make it an esports game, because esports at the time wasn't very big. It was just something kind of like niche, So we never tried to make an esports game. We never tried to make a competitive game. we just wanted to make a game that was just fun to play with your friends, with a bunch of strangers, as a casual like pickup game, you know. Because I remember the very first versions of Counter-Strike, it was quite like the battles were quite large. It was like 10 versus 10 or something like that. So it was not very esports. It was not very competitive. It was just like some fun, you know, just fun frags, you know. So it wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years after Counter-Strike was first released. That's when I think the very first esports leagues, they started to approach us, and they started to ask us to change the game because they wanted it to be more esports friendly, more balanced, more friendly. And so they basically asked us to kind of make the maps more more balanced. And they asked us to add some features like spectator mode and to like balance the guns and these kind of things. So they would give us a lot of feedback. And I'll be honest with you, I was actually kind of annoyed. I was like, oh man, they keep asking for stuff, you know. It was actually kind of annoying, to be honest. But you know, I mean, in the end, it worked out really well because, you know, the game turned out to be like the best esports game there is. So but yeah, I just remember it was being I don't know if you remember, you're probably too young for this, but the very first esports league was, I think, the Cyber Athlete League or something. But yeah, they would contact us a lot. They would constantly add us to do this, to change the game like this, and to do that. And so I was like, I didn't really want to listen to them because a lot of the things that they were asking us to do, it was also going to make the game different for like the more casual players. So I didn't really want to make the game too esports focused. I wanted to focus more on just like the casual game experience, just like, you know, just the casual experience. I didn't really want it to make it too focused on esports, but eventually, you know, over time, Valve realized that making it more esports friendly was the best way to go because the game was really perfectly well balanced, and it was just a matter of just fine tuning some things here and there to make it like the best esports game there is. So yeah, that's really the story. It was never a game that was intended to be esports. It was just something that the esports community, they just kind of like, they pushed us to do it. Yeah.
How did you feel about seeing CS being played in early LAN tournaments and esports events?
I was really happy. I mean, I was just really humbled that people can take this product and kind of just build this community around it and to make that community grow. I was just really happy to be a part of it and to see it take off like that. Because yeah, like I was never a professional player myself. I was good, you know, I was pretty good, obviously, but I never took it like to the level where these pros can take it to. So when I was watching them play, I was just really amazed at how good that game can be, or like how you know, how much skill it requires to really play the game at such a level. So I was just really I was just proud to see that, to see this game become that esports juggernaut. And so it was really cool, you know. Actually, to be honest, I remember there was a part of me that was kind of jealous because I was hearing about like, oh man, these guys they were so good at the game, they were making so much money, and I was like, shit, I wish I could be an esports player. But it's yeah, but no, I just never, you know, obviously it takes a lot of time to be good at like becoming esports player, so I just didn't have the time. But it was a good feeling. It was just, I was just proud. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Just proud to see the game become something I never really like imagined it would be, because like as I said, I never really thought it could be an esports game. But to see that esports community grow from it, that was cool. That was really cool to do.
What was the process like when Valve approached you and Jess Cliffy to acquire CounterStrike?
It was so basically they just reached out to us through email. And so they emailed us first, and so the first thing, so at the time I was actually in university, but I was also working for this company called Barking Dog Studios, and so I was actually working for them part-time. And Jess Cliffy, he was still in school. He was in school in Virginia Tech, I believe. And so Valve wanted to speak with me, and so because they were very close to me, I live like 2-hour drive away, and so they emailed me and they asked me if it would be possible for them to come up and meet me. And so yeah, I said yeah, of course. I'd love to meet you guys. And so they sent 2 guys up to meet me. I think one of them was Robin Walker, and I can't remember the second one. Unfortunately, but anyways, there was 2 people from Valve. They came up to meet me, and they just talked about my goals, my future plans, what I wanted to do with my career, that kind of thing. And so it was really cool, and I was really honored that they came up, and I was just super excited to see them. And so shortly after that meeting, they approached, they basically sent an offer to us saying, we're interested in kind of like buying CounterStrike and basically hiring both of us to work on CounterStrike like full time or part time, because I was still in school. So yeah, and then at that when they gave us the offer, we were like, oh my god, yeah, of course, because we love to work with these guys. I mean, we kind of thought they were awesome. And so yeah, it was a very kind of smooth process, and there was no like hiccups or no like negotiations. It was just like we were just so excited to work with them, and to be able to work on CounterStrike like full time. That was a really good opportunity for us, because like as I said, we were both in school. Like he was in school, I was like still in my second year, and so having a job was just really it was a nice source of revenue, because school is very expensive, so we had to like pay for the bills and shit. So yeah, basically that's kind of how we kind of agreed to work with them. It was a very smooth process, very easy going, yeah. And it happened so quick. I remember when the first time that they emailed us, and then to the point where they officially signed us to work with them, it was probably like less than a month. So it was very quick, yeah.
How did your role change after you officially joined Valve?
Actually, it didn't really change much at all. Like they were very they tried to make it as comfortable for me as possible. So they basically said, if you want to stay in school and work on CounterStrike like when in your spare time, you go ahead and do that. And so basically they let me finish my schooling, and I continued to make CounterStrike just spend like maybe 40 hours a week just working on CounterStrike. And they would just kind of pay me as like a as an employee, like a contractor basically. And so they allowed me to just continue to do what I was doing the way I was doing it before. So my work environment was the same. So basically at the time I was living with my parents and I was going to school, and so that situation continued to exist. And so yeah, it kind of stayed like that. And then after I graduated, when I finished graduating school, they still let me, they didn't ask me to come down and work at Valve. They just said, if you want to work as a remote contractor, that's fine. So, and because I wanted to stay with my parents actually. I was very young at the time, and I just wanted to I didn't really want to move. I didn't really want to set up and move to another country. It was a hassle, and so I was just comfortable. And I had a lot of friends in Vancouver. I had my family. I had a girlfriend. I didn't want to pick all of that up. I was very young too. I was like 22 years old. So, it was not easy for me to just pick up everything and just go move to another country. So Valve were very, very nice about it. They just said, hey, if you wanna stay in Vancouver, you wanna stay in Canada, and you can do that. Just do it. And they just let me continue to work remotely as a contractor. And so it kind of basically, for the most of my time while I was working at Valve, I was actually just working from Canada. I wasn't actually at the offices. Yeah. So yeah, basically, it was very comfortable.
Did you ever feel pressure when CS became a commercial product instead of just a passion project?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there was a lot of pressure from the community to kind of fix things, and so they obviously the community, they want us to fix things very fast, and so there was a lot of pressure to work quickly but I was actually very motivated because there were so many people that loved the game, and so that really motivated me to work faster, and just try to fix all of their complaints. So yeah, I mean, in some sense, there was added pressure because we had such a large community, there was a bit of pressure trying to make them all happy, but you know, as a, I was just kind of like, I felt like, you know, Valve, they hired me, so I didn't think that they were gonna fire me if, so I didn't really feel too much pressure. I just felt like they were happy with the way I worked before, so I wasn't really scared of like losing my job or doing anything like that. So yeah, I guess on the one hand, I didn't really feel too much pressure to, just to fix the game, because yeah, it was just it was just pretty comfortable, to be honest.
Why did you eventually decide to leave Valve after CS 1.6?
So actually, I left Valve in 2006. So this was actually after. So basically, what happened is, so after 1.6 was done, I actually started working on a prototype for a sequel to CounterStrike. So I spent several years trying to make a CounterStrike 2, but eventually it never really came to much. But so at one point, I think in 2004, Valve asked me if I wanted to work on another game called Day of Defeat, which is like a World War II mod. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll work in that, because I was really good friends with the developers who created that mod, and so I really liked them. And so I also, at the time, I wanted to work on a game that was about to be released, because I was getting kind of burnt out working on this prototype, and I didn't really think that it had any chance of being released anytime soon. So I basically just jumped on the Day of Defeat project, and so I worked on that project for 2 years, and then at the end of that project in 2006, I kind of had a talk with Valve, like the upper management, like Gabe Newell and all the other. So basically, we kind of had a very friendly talk, and we just basically decided, a lot of what I wanted to do with CounterStrike, or a lot of like what I wanted to do with my next project, I didn't think it was possible to do them on CounterStrike, because I felt like we both kind of felt that CounterStrike was like, it was kind of very mature, and it was like it was difficult to change it, because the audience, the player base, they felt like they didn't want us to change to change the meta, to do anything like different to the game. They didn't want us to add like any new crazy features or anything like that. And so I realized that it was not going to be very like I wanted to make a game that was different than Counter-Strike. Like I wanted to make a game that had more features. And so I basically decided that it's best that I just leave the company and try to make this game that I wanted to do on my own, and just basically make it kind of like the same way I made Counter-Strike, just kind of like just start from scratch and just kind of like just create it on my own. But yeah, so that project ended up being Tactical Intervention, and so that turned out to be a bit of a mess. I didn't really end up working with the right people, so. But yeah, it was a good experience in that I learned a lot as a developer, and so that was very like meaningful for me. Yeah.
Counter-Strike is known for its simplicity and high skill ceiling. What design choices do you think were the key to that balance?
I mean, when we came up with Counter-Strike, I never really had a design document. I mean, it was not like I had some formal idea of how I wanted the final game to look like. Like, the game started out very simple. Like, the very first version of Counter-Strike was a very simple game. It just had 2 teams, and they can buy these guns. And yeah, it was just like, it's very simple. But it was just over the course of playing the game with the community and understanding what they wanted to see in the game, and just kind of like getting the feedback from the community, and we started to see how to make the game better. And so that was kind of the design philosophy. It was basically just create a very simple game, like a very simple framework, and then just iterate on the game design over the course of several versions. And so that's basically, yeah. So we basically developed the game in a very open environment where we were getting feedback from all different players, and so we were able to kind of shape the game in the best way possible.
If you could go back in time and change one thing about the original Counter-Strike, what would it be? I honestly don't think there's anything I would change, because
it reached perfection. Everyone loves it. Like looking back on it, it's like we did everything that the players wanted, and so there's nothing that I feel that could make the game any better that I can think of right now. No, I mean, yeah, honestly, I feel like it's reached a state of like perfection, I would say. Yeah. Like
Okay.
if there was something that I wanted to add, I would have added it sometime between Counter-Strike 1.6. So, yeah, I feel like, yeah, basically I just felt like the game was really just reached its peak, you know.
How do you feel about modern FPS games in comparison to CS's style of gameplay?
Well, I mean, modern FPS games, so you're talking about like Call of Duty, like PUBG, Valorant, these types of games. I mean, they've kind of evolved in some ways. I mean, like Counter-Strike itself is still going to be like an esports game in terms of like it's a very simple game with a very high skill gap. But I think with games like Fortnite, you know, obviously these games are targeted to different players. So we're starting to see a very broader, a more diverse range of games that target different audiences. You know, so I think that's a good thing. So for people who are more into casual gaming, they can play Fortnite, and so for people who like Counter-Strike but want to do something a little bit more like stylish, they can play Valorant. So I think it's good that we're starting to see all these different types of games that are starting to address all the different types of player communities that are out there. So yeah, they each kind of bring their own little element, but they're different enough. Like for example, PUBG, like battle royale games, they're fundamentally different than Counter-Strike, but you know they each have their own addictive quality of why people enjoy those types of games. So I think it's really good that we have this diversity in games.
You later worked on tactical intervention. What lessons from Counter-Strike did you bring to that game?
Well, actually, I don't think I did bring many lessons because the game failed. So I mean, so I would say I didn't really learn too much. But I think one of the biggest lesson that I learned from working on tactical intervention was the reason that it failed is because we developed the game in a closed environment, and we didn't really see the flaws, and we didn't see the areas where we needed to polish the game, because you know we spent like 6 or 7 years making this game, and then we showed it to the community, and it just was once they gave us the feedback, it was too late for us to change it, you know, because it's hard to change a game when it's been in development for 6 years compared to like when it's only been in development for like 1 or 2 years, because you know it's easier to change course and just kind of address critical issues with your game design at an earlier stage. So yeah, I would say the biggest mistake that we made on that game was just developing it in a closed environment. And yeah, it's unfortunate because
What were some of the design ideas in tactical intervention that you wish had been better received?
well, I mean, a lot of players liked certain features of the game, like the driving. We had a driving mission that was pretty well received. It was popular. I think if we just polished it up and just kind of like just refined that mission mode, I think that would have been a really popular game mode. So I just think that the game itself had a lot of features, but too many of them were just unpolished and they were just kind of janky, and so I think players just didn't have the patience to kind of just just kind of like put up with those level, like all that jankiness. So but yeah, I just think that there were a few good ideas in that game. I think it just I just think that we didn't really have the resources to just kind of address them and polish them up.
You also worked with Pearl Abyss and Face Punch. What drew you to those roles, and how were those experiences different from your earlier career?
So Face Punch was a pretty different game because I was working on a game called Rust. So Rust being an open world survivalist game, it was much different than what I had worked on previously. So I had to kind of understand what style of game this is and sort of like change accordingly to that. But it was all done remotely. So the team on Rust, when I was working on it, we were all just located on different parts of the world, and we just kind of communicated using Slack, I believe. And so I think the work environment was very similar to how we made CounterStrike. It was just all remotely done, and we just kind of communicated through internet. So that was a pretty familiar work environment because I had already done that style using CounterStrike. And a lot of the people that I worked with on Rust, they were just so talented that I didn't really have much problems to work with them. They were all very good at what they were doing, and so yeah, that was a very similar experience to CounterStrike. So Pearl Abyss was different though. It was a really great company to work with. They treated me so nice, and I really had a great time working at the company. And they had so much talent there that it was amazing because they kind of reminded me of Valve, but they were much larger because they were able to hire some of the best talent in Korea. And so I was able to just see what they can create, and it was just really amazing that the stuff that they can create. I mean, obviously you've seen like their games. They visually their games look incredible. I think Korean games have some of the highest visual qualities, and so like art-wise, they had such great visual like strength, and so yeah, I really enjoyed working at the company because I was able to kind of have access to so much great like resources, like a great art team, and just some really great programmers as well. And yeah, the reason I left Pearl Abyss was because I wanted to kind of come back to Vancouver and closer to my roots. And my wife, she wanted to kind of like she had a hard time kind of like getting her career started in Korea. So yeah, that was kind of the big reason why I had to leave Pearl Abyss. But I really enjoyed my time there, though. It was a really wonderful company to work with, and yeah, it was just a really good environment. But obviously they're much different than like Facepunch or Valve because they're such a large company. So they have a very it's a very structured organization. You have a lot of managers, and you have a lot of people, and so it was very organized. Like the workflow was very very structured, like a typical company. It's not like at Valve. At Valve, it tends to be a little bit looser. We don't have too many managers. When I was working on the Day of Defeat project, we didn't actually have a manager. It was just like maybe like 10 of us, and we just kind of collaborated together. It almost felt like a mod environment. Like we each kind of contributed, and we each kind of provided feedback into how the game could be designed. So yeah, it was a very different. It was a much looser environment. So yeah. So but yeah, working at Pearl Abyss, it's much more organized. Yeah, much more structured. You have a clear chain of who's like leading the projects.
CounterStrike has become one of the most played and longest lasting FPS franchises ever. How do you process that legacy?
I'm happy. I'm honored. It's like there's nothing really like it doesn't. But the thing is, I'm not affected by the legacy anymore because like I'm disconnected from CounterStrike. I don't work there anymore. I'm not a part of the project. So like it doesn't really. I don't really think about it too much. It's not like I wake up every day and think about CounterStrike. I'm not involved in it. So, but it's nice to know that people still play it, and it's nice to know that it's kind of withstood the test of time. So, I mean, I'm very honored to be a part of such a good legacy. But I think a lot of the reasoning for why it's being able to last as long is because Valve have done a really good job of just kind of maintaining it. So yeah, I'm just really proud to be a part of this franchise. Yeah.
Do you still follow the CounterStrike scene today, especially with the release of CS2?
Yeah, lately I've I've been kind of following the pro scene and just kind of keeping up to date with the updates, like what they change and that kind of thing. But I don't really have much time to play it though, because to be honest, these days I'm so busy with work that I don't really play games that much, other than the game that I'm currently working on, because I have to kind of play it, make sure it's okay. But yeah, it's just as a game developer, we don't really have too much time to play other games, So I'm just focused on this project, trying to make it the best we can. But yeah, in the corner of my eye, I do kind of keep up to date with CounterStrike and see how it's going. And yeah, I mean, I'm really just happy that Valve have been able to kind of do such a good job of kind of keeping it up to date.
What do you think of the direction Valve has taken with CS over the years? Anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, I mean, they've done a really good job of it, because if you look at the numbers, the player numbers, the amount of people that play the game, and like what's happened with the skins, how popular the skins are, they've done a really great job of kind of keeping the game fresh and exciting, while at the same time keeping the meta the same. Like when I play the game now, it still feels the same as when I played it 20 years ago. So they've been very careful not to change that formula. But I really like what they've done with the skins, and just kind of like how it's kind of created this kind of like this kind of like this ecosystem outside of the game. Because I know a lot of players that play Counter-Strike, they're not really good at it, but they only play it because they like to collect the skins. So it's kind of cool that they've been able to kind of attract a different audience that kind of just enjoys the game just for the skins. So yeah, I really don't think, like, I can't really imagine what else that they can do to really improve the game. I mean, if I had to be picky, I mean, I would say maybe make more maps, because I think when you look at the number of maps that they have, there hasn't been too many new maps ever since the past 25 years. Like in terms of competitive maps, like it would be cool if there was like more maps to play from. But I think that's one of the challenges of making an esports game. It's really hard to make a good map that's balanced. And yeah, I mean, when like, for example, a game like Rainbow Six Siege, I don't know if you've played Rainbow Six Siege, but I remember when I was playing Rainbow Six Siege, there was like only like 5 or 6 maps that were really popular, and every time they tried to introduce a new map, people didn't like it because it was like, it was not balanced, it was not fun. So it was really hard to make a really fun and balanced map. And so yeah, it's just one of those things that I hope that they can address, because yeah, more maps is what keeps the game kind of fresh, for me.
What advice would you give to young modders today hoping to make their own mark on the industry like you did?
Yeah, it's super hard. Like the industry's changed so much from when I came in 20 years ago. Sometimes I ask myself, if I tried to break into the industry now, like I'm not sure if I could do it, because it's so challenging now. It's so competitive. I'm really fortunate to have, started coming into the industry 20 years ago, because it was less competitive then. But I think the advice that I would give to people who want to get into the industry now is, I think it's really important to identify your player base for a game. So when you want to come up with a game, try to find out the type of players that will play your game, and basically try to like show your game to them at an early stage, so you can get some early feedback from these types of players, because I think those are the players that will help shape your game to become something that can be truly successful. So I would say, yeah, it's important to like develop a very early prototype of your game, and to incorporate community feedback at an early stage. So that way you can sort of understand which parts of your game need to be changed. And it's better to know that at an earlier stage than at a later stage, for sure. But yeah, so yeah, basically just identifying your player base, like trying to identify what kind of players will play your game. Like, are you gonna make like a roguelike? Are you gonna make this or that? And then try to build a player base from those types of games. So I one of the things that we like to do is we like to like go to other games that are similar to ours, and just kind of communicate with the players in that community and try to, kind of get some feedback on what kind of things that they would like to change or they would like to see in the game. And so you can sort of draw like players from different communities that are similar to your game in that way. Yeah.
Would you ever return to the Counter-Strike universe in any official capacity if given the chance?
Yeah, if they ask me, I would. I think I would. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough to say though, because I'm not sure how much they would need me to change. Because like when I look at CounterStrike right now, it's in such a state that I can't really think of anything that I could really bring to the game that would really improve it so much. Like, I mean, I like, maybe I could make like a, because they have like these side modes like Wingman, and they have like deathmatch. So I mean, I wouldn't mind working on like a casual game mode that people can play, like maybe a game mode that has vehicles or something. I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, but basically, yeah, I wouldn't mind coming back to the franchise. If they think that I can bring something to it, for sure, yeah, I wouldn't mind.
In the past interview with PC Gamer, you mentioned Dying Light as one of the games you really admired, especially for its features. Funny enough, I actually had the chance to work briefly with Techland during the release of Dying Light 1 on the Nintendo Switch, and later with Dying Light 2 Stay Human. What was it about Dying Light that stood out to you as a developer? And did any of its design elements influence how you think about game development today?
Oh, so the thing I liked the most about Dying Light was how immersive it felt. It made, like, the way that the character moved and the parkour and just the combat. They kind of kept it all like in first person, and it just they made it feel very satisfying and immersive and smooth. And I think that was really what really made me like the game the most. It was just how smooth everything just felt. The movement, the combat, how just, yeah, I think that was really, and also the open world was really cool too. Just having this open world sandbox, and you can kind of run to different hot spots. Yeah, I think all of that was probably the biggest reason why I really enjoyed the game so much. Yeah, but I also I've always wanted to make a fighting game in first person. So when I played Dying Light, it kind of made me think about, oh, so this is how we can make a fighting game like in first person and make it feel very satisfying. So it kind of gave me some ideas on what I can possibly work on a future game.
You recently had a wild, unexpected moment on stream with OniPixel, Majilla, and XQC. Were you just casually dropped into CS history like it was nothing, and the entire internet lost their mind? What was going through your head during that? Did you expect people to react the way they did? And what's it like watching a new generation discover you through those chaotic Twitch moments?
Oh, yeah, I was actually really, because I met OniPixel in January at HOTV Awards, and when I first met him, he was such a nice guy. I mean, he was just really friendly and easy to kind of get along with and speak with me. So I got along with him really well, and I just love his personality. And so when I was at the Austin TV Awards, I just told him, hey, are you gonna be there? I'd love to see you again. And so basically, he asked me to just jump on his stream and just kind of chat up with him. And it was my first time at an esports event, so we basically just kind of chat about what was it like being there. And so I was actually, honestly, when that XQC came on, I honestly didn't think it was him. I thought it was just some fanboy, because people always put XQC on their names, whatever. So I just thought it was some random dude, right? Because OniPixel, he always brings some random people on there. So when I found it was really him, I was blown away, because I know how big XQC is, and I've seen a lot of his videos, and I love his humor and his personality. And so I never thought that he was that much into Counter-Strike. So I was just really I was honored, to be honest with him, to be honest, that I could resonate with someone with such a high like profile, so it was cool. It really made my day. And yeah, I'm just really glad that I could speak with him virtually. But yeah, it was cool. It was a great moment, but totally unscripted. I completely didn't think he would show up, at all. I wasn't really expecting anybody to like anybody famous. I was just, I knew like OniPixels, so I just thought I would be talking to his community, OniPixels community. So yeah, it really caught me off guard. It was really cool. A really cool moment. Yeah.
Back in your keynote at Sinfo 2015, you highlighted several core principles involving the community early, building easy-to-use tools for developers, filtering user feedback, and above all, identifying a game's core and making it fun before anything else. Looking back now, how have those lessons shaped your approach in projects like Tactical Intervention or Rust? Were there moments where one of these pillars saved you, or perhaps were neglecting it to lead to a stumble?
Yeah. Well, with Tactical Intervention, the pillar that we neglected was developing the game in an open community. That really killed us. I mean, it's so important to really get player feedback at an early stage of your project, because it can really make or break the success of your game. Because we made quite a few decisions that we could have avoided if we had known how unpopular those features were. And so that I would say that was a big pillar that we kind of failed. And the thing is, I remember when I was working on Tactical Intervention, like I wanted to kind of release it and kind of develop it in an open environment, but the people that I were working with, I don't want to get into like pointing fingers and that kind of thing, but basically it was not possible for us to kind of develop it in the same way that Counter-Strike was developed for various reasons. I mean, a lot of them were like business related and just this and that. It's just, I don't know. It was such a mess. But yeah, bottom line is, I think that was the one thing that really made it difficult for Tactical Intervention to succeed. And so yeah, I mean the other pillars that you mentioned, I still kind of stick to that, and I still believe those to be true. I mean, really just, and I feel like a lot of it is kind of common sense, just obviously making a game that's fun. Yeah, obviously. I mean, like I can't believe I said that. I mean, but yeah, just I think the most important pillar is really finding your audience and trying to identify your audience at an early stage, and to just kind of work towards addressing that audience feedback. And sometimes it's difficult though, because sometimes people in your community, they'll tell you to change the game in a certain way, and it's difficult because you have to identify whether or not what he's suggesting or he or she is telling you, does that really fit into what you want to make as a game. So you kind of have to make that decision whether or not to listen to this feedback or to ignore this feedback. So that's kind of the challenge, and that's the thing that you have to kind of be aware of as a game developer. You have to kind of still have to understand what kind of game that you're trying to make, but at the same time you have to understand what kind of game that the community will as a whole will enjoy. Because obviously there's going to be some players that don't like your decisions. There's some players that they'll never like, they make a decision and you're like, I'm gonna leave this game because of that, and you can't make them happy. You can't make everyone happy. So you just have to try to just trying to navigate the community, trying to make sure that you're not implementing a feature that pisses off too many people. So that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's challenging. It's really challenging because there's no easy way to kind of like there's no easy way to kind of to recognize when someone is telling you something, and whether or not that thing that he's telling you, whether or not it's kind of like is something that you should listen to or something that you should kind of ignore. It's always kind of a difficult thing to do.
As someone who helped shape the foundation of competitive FPS games, where do you see the genre evolving next? Do you think the future lies in massive scale battles like, for example, 10,000 player battle royales or 500 versus 500 war zones? Or is there still untapped potential in smaller, tightly designed experiences like Counter-Strike?
Well, in terms of esports, I don't think that they're gonna become bigger. I think esports is always gonna be kind of smaller, team focused, like 5-on-5, 6-on-6 kind of thing. They those esports competitive games, they don't really benefit from being larger scale. Like for example, when PUBG, I mean PUBG, they try to be an esports game, but I don't think it's as popular as Counter-Strike because it's just, well, for one thing, it's not really balanced, right? I mean, but in terms of like general multiplayer gaming, like larger scale battles, I think there's like obviously games like Battlefield do pretty well. It really depends on the size of the level. Like if you have a larger level, then you need more players to fill it up, and so yeah. I mean, I was a really big fan of Battlefield, so I did enjoy some of those larger scale battles for sure. But I don't think they can ever be like competitive though. I mean, they're just more just like fun games to just, because a lot of the games in Battlefield, they're not very balanced. Like a lot of the missions, a lot of the maps, they're just fun because the yeah, just they're just so dynamic. But I would never consider them to be like a balanced competitive game.
AI is rapidly transforming how games are made, from procedural world generation to intelligent NPC behavior and even code generation. As someone who built one of the most iconic shooters in gaming history with limited tools, what excites or concerns you most about how AI is reshaping game development today? Do you think it's going to be a supercharger for creativity or a risk making games feel more generic?
Well, given the tools that we currently have in AI, personally, the only tool that I use that's AI is ChatGPT. And when I use ChatGPT, it's only because I need to get an answer on how like an Unreal feature works. Because Unreal, like the documentation for the Unreal Engine, it's not the best. It's like there's certain parts of the Unreal Engine, it's like I have a hard time finding. So basically, I'll use ChatGPT to tell me about like, hey, how does this feature in Unreal work and that kind of thing. I generally don't use like AI to help me to code, like to write code for me. Partly it's because I've been coding for so long that I don't really need it. Like, I mean, anything that I need to code, I can just figure it out myself. So, but I think I can imagine myself as a younger coder, like back in my 20s, when I didn't know how to do certain features, I didn't know how to implement certain code. I can sort of understand how it being very useful for new programmers. But I've always felt that it's really important to understand how code works, though. Like sometimes when someone tells me gives me a piece of code and says, "Oh, this code will do this for you," if I don't know how that code works, I won't be able to fix it. Or I won't be able to change that code. Like sometimes I need to change a little bit, like just to make it do something a little bit different. I need to go back into the code and kind of read it and understand it. And so I mean, you know, I think AI is helpful in some regards, but I don't think it's gonna like completely replace our jobs that much, because I think it'll just kind of speed up our workflow, just the way other tools that we use. But outside of coding, like when you look at stuff like generative AI for art, I've only seen it being useful for creating like 2D concept art and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I can understand how games would consider using that for concept art. But the 3D stuff, like generative AI for creating 3D models, I've never seen that to be very useful. I mean, because there's so many different marketplaces that sell different models, and so most of the time I would just kind of get it from these marketplaces and just kind of modify them. So I don't think the 3D AI generative stuff is at the stage where we can actually use it. But I don't know, maybe in 10 years it'll be useful. But I don't know. I mean, it's still too early for me to say how much of an impact AI will have on people. I just can say from at this point in my career, I don't really use it that much because, yeah, I just find that the stuff that I need when I'm creating like alpha response, for example, a lot of the times the stuff that I'm putting in there, it's just I can't imagine like having an AI do it for me, because it requires so much creativity. Like for example, when I create a mission in Alpha Response, I have to look at the entire layout of the level. I have to decide, okay, this is where I want to spawn the enemies. This is where I want to place this prop here, this vehicle. It requires so much human creativity that I can't imagine just telling an AI, hey AI, go make me a mission that looks like this. It's just gonna, I just can't imagine that it can do a good job of it. Like, I can only see it doing a good job if I can give it like a very simple tasks. But more complicated tasks, like creating a level, creating like a level that's like a player walks through, and you know, he has to interact with the level, and the level is fun and it's balanced and it's engaging. I still think that requires a great deal of human interaction, or like human input. Like as a level designer, as a game designer, you still have to like decide, place this here, place this object here. It requires a lot of manual just manual placement of the props. And so yeah, in terms of like level design, I don't think AI can do that at this stage, and I can't imagine it being that creative anytime soon. But in terms of like creating like little assets, like if I say, hey AI, create me a piece of garbage, or like a garbage can, yeah, sure, it can do that. But I can also just buy that garbage from a marketplace. I mean, I can just do that. So you know, it's not really solving me, like for me, it's not really solving any problems that I had in the past, I would say. I mean, like I said, the only time I use AI is because I use ChatGPT, and it's because the reason I use it is because Google search sucks balls, man. You know, like when you type Google search, like you say, hey Google, how does this work? Like, or this feature in Unreal, like, and you get all these results, and like, you know, you got to filter through all the crap, all the ads and all the crap. So that's really the only reason AI has become useful, is because Google, like, search engines have become so terrible, you know, because of just so I think in some aspects Google, like AI, has become sort of like this, like this. It kind of takes all the information in the internet and just kind of makes it, kind of organizes it. So in that sense, it's quite useful for that particular task. So, but yeah, once you get past that, I kind of see it being super useful. Like for example, like the AI video stuff. Like, you know, you type in a prompt, it'll make you a video. But you know, like if you're trying to make a movie, I mean, if all your movies are just based on like simple prompts like that, I mean, I guess that'll be okay. But like, I haven't seen an AI video generated that is so advanced that where you type in a prompt and then it gives you a video, and then you say, okay, I want you to replace that guy's legs with something else, or I want you to move him like 10 millimeters over here. I don't know. Has it reached that stage? But I don't know. But maybe it will in some days. But I still think that there's still some room for human creativity. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
The CS2 skin economy has evolved into something massive. Some skins are now even worth more than luxury watches or cars. What's your honest take on where the skin market has gone? Do you see it as a natural evolution of community-driven value? Or has it shifted the focus of the game too far away from the actual gameplay?
No, I think it hasn't affected the gameplay, because people can still play CounterStrike the same way they played it 20 years ago. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, you know, it doesn't have, you know, it hasn't really changed the meta of what CounterStrike is at its core. So it just has added an extra layer, and it kind of introduced other players who like collecting skins to the game. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good way of just growing the interest in the game. And as far as like the value of the skins and that kind of thing, that's just a natural evolution of just anything valuable. Like once you add anything that's tradable, it's bound to happen. And so I think it's a positive to have that, because as you say, I mean, CounterStrike is a free game. You know, it's you know, I understand Valve, you know, they need to monetize it somehow. So I do feel like the skins system is a really good way for them to kind of monetize the game in such a way that it doesn't affect the core gameplay, because like you can still play CounterStrike the same way you wanted to play it. as a competitive player. So yeah, I think it's a net positive. Yeah, I mean personally, there's some cool skins that I really think are look really cool, and I'd love to collect myself. So I think it's also good that it kind of allows artists like skin artists to have a outlet for them to showcase their work. I think that's great because we have a lot of these talented artists that are able to kind of generate revenue and just basically give back to the community. So I think that's a positive. Yeah, yeah.
Counter Strike has always been known as a PC first, precision driven shooter. But there have been attempts to bringing it to consoles over the years. What's your take on Counter Strike as a console experience? Do you think it can ever truly work on a controller, or does the game lose part of its soul when it leaves the mouse and keyboard?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be very good. I mean, they tried right with the Xbox version, but in terms of like being a competitive sport, uh, it just I don't. I just yeah. I mean, like we have Call of Duty. I mean, that's on the console, and they do have like esports Call of Duties where people actually play it with controllers. So I guess it is possible to do it, but I guess Valve feel like it's not really necessary because it's just. I guess it's maybe it's doing so well on the PC that they don't really want to focus to spend too much time to trying to make it good on a console, because it would require a lot of work, because you have to like balance the um you have to change the levels. I would imagine, because like to make the levels fun, and you're using a controller, it would require a lot of work. It's just a lot of balancing, so it's not an easy thing. So I can understand why Valve hasn't really focus too much on making a console version. So, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they are working on it. We don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of competitive esports, I just think that it's better played with on a PC.
There was a pretty big divide in the community when Counter Strike Source launched. Some players were very loyal to 1.6, while others embraced the new engine. Looking back, what's your perspective on the split?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of pro players and I asked them, what was it, why did you not want to switch? And they told me, no, it was noticeable. Like the movement from CS Source to 1.6, it was very noticeable. And so I can understand them, and I can understand why they would not switch, because they spent so many years becoming so good at 1.6, and a lot of their skills, they couldn't take them to Source. So it made a lot of sense for them to kind of just stick with 1.6. And so I can understand it from their perspective. So I totally can see that. So I'm really glad that Valve have done a good job of making Counter-Strike 2 feel very similar to CS:GO, because CS:GO was a very popular game, and so they were able to kind of keep the core feeling of CS:GO, because playing CS2 and CS:GO, they feel very identical. So I think that they learned. I think Valve kind of learned a lesson from Counter-Strike Source. They really wanted to make sure that the feeling of the game, the movement, was really the same, because moving from 1.6 to CS Source, as a casual player, actually, to be honest, I didn't really notice that much of a difference in the movement. But it was really the hardcore pro players. They told me, yeah, there was definitely like a noticeable difference. And so Valve did a really good job of making sure that same thing didn't happen with CS:GO to CS2. So yeah.
When you see a kid in Brazil or Poland or even the Philippines playing Counter-Strike today, do you realize that you created a global digital culture?
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm just very humbled and fortunate to be a part of such a legacy. Yeah, like a lot of it has to do with Valve. Valve just have done a good job of keeping it popular, because and another thing, I think one of the reasons why Counter-Strike is popular is it's very accessible on players on PCs that are not as powerful. So you can play Counter-Strike on a lower hardware PC and still kind of have a fun time. So I think that was really important to having the game grow to such astronomical levels where you can see people in Afghanistan playing the game, and so that's really quite amazing. And yeah, it's because the game is so accessible. It's so playable on so many different types of hardware. And so, but yeah, I have huge pride in knowing that I was part of a game legacy that can be enjoyed by so many different people from all over the world. I've met people from like so many different places, like Kazakhstan, and smaller countries like in Africa that really enjoy the game, and it just feels awesome to know that I was partly responsible for what they some of the stuff that they enjoyed so much. So yeah, just really just proud of being part of it.
Let's talk about 2025 and your new game, Alpha Response. For those who haven't had a chance to play it yet, how would you describe it in your own words?
So I would say it's a game of a it was a, it's a game that's inspired a lot by games like Payday, Left 4 Dead, like Deep Rock Galactic, so co-op shooters basically. So we wanted to kind of take that game experience from Payday, like, and combine it with something like CounterStrike, where we have like a progression of like weapons. So like you start off with like a weaker weapon, and kind of like as you progress throughout the missions, you kind of earn enough money to buy some of the better weapons. So yeah, I would say it's a nice mix of Payday mixed with Left 4 Dead, mixed with CounterStrike. One of the things that we were inspired from Left 4 Dead was we really liked how in Left 4 Dead there was a lot of different enemy types. Like you had like these regular zombies, but you also had these like mini bosses that like spit and like blow up, and so by having like such a diverse range of enemies, it made the gameplay feel very dynamic and very like just very exciting. Like you never could just camp in one corner and just kill all the enemies in Left 4 Dead. You always had to like constantly move, constantly find a better position to attack from. And so we wanted to kind of create kind of take that feeling and kind of incorporate that into like Alpha Response. And so we introduced a lot of different enemy varieties. So they will kind of force the player to kind of like constantly like check their surroundings and just look around, and they can't just stay in one spot and just like kill the whole wave of enemies. There's constantly constant dynamic firefights. That's kind of what we wanted to focus on. And so yeah, that was a big inspiration for us. And we also were inspired by like we have this large open level, and it's kind of like GTA, where like the player, he starts in one part of the level, but he has to travel across the level to and do different missions. And so by doing that, it allows us to have a game that feels a lot of replayability. So like each time you play the game, you can start in a different part of the level, and you can do different missions. So we wanted to add like a lot of replayability by having that. So we try to create as many missions as possible. Right now we have like almost 40 different missions that take place across 2 large levels. And so the size of each level is very large. I would say it's like if you imagine like a Counter-Strike map, I would say one of our levels is probably like maybe 7 times bigger than one Counter-Strike map. I think it's like 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers or something like that. But they're quite large, and so we have these large open levels, and so the player travels all over the level, and he's doing these missions kind of thing. So in some ways, it's kind of like GTA, Grand Theft Auto, in that like you're in this large open world, and you travel to different areas, and you do a mission, and then you could travel to another mission. So yeah, that's I would say that's kind of like the synopsis of what Alpha Response is. And it's been a real pleasure to work with a group of developers who have such a broad, diverse experience that really helps shape the game. A lot of like some of them worked on Ghost Recon and Deep Rock Galactic, and yeah, so it's really cool. They have a lot of experience.
It's in early access now on Steam. How's the journey been so far? And do you have a sense of when the full version might be released?
Yeah, well, we've been in early access for several months now, and we've been kind of under the radar. We haven't been doing much marketing, and so not many people know about the game. So we're slowly just trying to make sure that the game is polished before we try to introduce it to more players. So we've been getting a lot of feedback from our early players, and they've been giving us a lot of good feedback on how to just improve the game. And it's been pretty positive. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback. Like a lot of people really enjoy the gameplay, the firefights. That's one thing that people enjoy. But we've been getting feedback on like other stuff, like polishing, like the graphics. Certain parts of the levels are a bit unpolished, so we've just been taking a lot of that in and just trying to address them slowly. And so we're kind of working our way towards like the 1.0 release, and it's kind of hard to exactly say how long it's going to take, but I mean, I think the game right now is in a pretty good state. It has a lot of features done. We have a lot of content in there. It's just a matter of just polishing it up and getting it, you just really to a level that we're really happy with. I think it can be done probably within a year. So we're kind of looking at like mid of 2026 for the final release of it. But yeah, as I said, the version that we have right now is in early access, but people can still play it and they can still really get a sense of a feeling of what it has to offer.
You're developing this under Ultimo Ratio Games. Can you tell us more about who you're working with on this? Is it a small team or more of a solo mission?
Basically, it's a team of independent developers. A lot of us, we come from different. Some of us come from AAA companies like Ubisoft, Activision. Some of us are a bit like some of the guys that I'm working with. They're a bit younger. They just came from university. So it's a nice mix of like very experienced people to more of a kind of fresher developers. But yeah, I think the majority of us that are working on the game, we have like at least like maybe like 8 or 10 years of experience in working in the game industry. So as I mentioned, some of them worked on Ghost Recon, like one of them came from Activision. He worked on the Call of Duty series, and actually some of them worked on my previous project Tactical Intervention. So I was able to work with people that I used to work with before, so we already have like some experience of working with together. So that's been good to be able to work with some former colleagues of mine. And so yeah, it's just a nice mixture of people that have come from AAA all the way down to like indie developers. And so at the moment we have like 8 of us, but at one point we had like about like 15 of us working on it. And but some of them, they kind of jump in like part-time and help out a bit. But yeah, it's been a really good experience working with these guys, because like they bring a lot of experience to the project.
What's the day-to-day like with your team? Are you all remote or constantly bouncing builds and ideas back and forth?
Yeah, so we're mostly remote. Like actually a large portion of them are based in like Europe, it's like Spain and like the UK, and like yeah, so actually a lot of them are in Europe. And like myself, I'm in Canada, and we have another guy that's in Toronto. So yeah, but I would say the majority of our developers are in Europe, so the time zone can be a bit of a challenge. But I think it works really well because we're able to kind of focus on certain aspects of the game. So we don't really need to communicate like too much, but we tend to speak every day on Slack, like for a couple hours, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. But a lot of the work that we're doing, it's very modular, so I don't really have to like coordinate with them too much. So that's made the development much more smooth. And so yeah, what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Bouncing builds and ideas back and forth.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was just talking about that. Yeah, so basically we communicate on Slack every day. So because they're in Europe and I'm in Canada, we have like maybe 2 or 3 hours of overlap where we can actually where we're both awake at the same time. So yeah, so during those hours we're just kind of bouncing off ideas on how to improve certain aspects of the level, and yeah, just how to fix up the AI. So yeah, it's been a pretty good setup. And like these days, I mean, everybody works remote, so it's very, we have so many good tools like Slack and like Google Drive and all. So it's actually really easy to just work remotely, to be honest. There's no hurdles, and like yeah, there's no like challenges that we have to overcome.
I've seen players really getting into it and also leaving some sharp feedback. What's it been like shaping the game in response to that feedback, especially around the AI and mission flow?
So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of just addressing like the major concerns. When someone gives us negative feedback, we try to understand what exactly he wants, he's having an issue with. Because sometimes when player leaves a feedback, it's really hard to understand what exactly is he mad about. Sometimes because they'll just say like something like the AI sucks or something like that, and it's like, well, that's such a general piece of feedback. I don't know which part of the AI. So we've actually spent a lot of time to just address a lot of issues with the AI, and so like recently, a lot of the playtests that we have, a lot of the players that we've been playing with, they've had a pretty enjoyable time with it. So I feel like we've done a lot to make sure that the AI it's very challenging, and so yeah. So I mean, when it comes to other aspects of the game, like in terms of like the polish and that kind of stuff, that I think that's something that we'll just address over time. Like we're a pretty small team, and we're developing a pretty large, like our game is quite large, so it just takes us a little bit of time to just polish certain areas of the mission, certain areas of the game, like for example the character models. We need to improve those, but I'm confident that over time we'll get to those. But I think the core fundamentals of the game are there, and so that's really what we wanted to make sure that was is fun. So to make sure that the gameplay loop is good. And then once that's been established, then we can work on the easier stuff, like polishing up the levels and those kind of things, because that's just a matter of time. So we'll address those. Yeah.
When you do get some time away from the dev grind, are you still the kind of person who hops into games and plays competitively? Or do you just crash and recharge?
No, I don't have time to play other games. Like honestly, I'm so focused on this particular project, and I'm just trying to. We're just trying to make it the best that it is, and so a lot of us don't really have time to play other games. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, yeah. The only game that we play is this game ourselves. So we're constantly playing it, just trying to, address any bugs or whatnot. So. Yeah, it's always been kind of like that. Whenever I worked on projects, I've always been just focused on making sure that project is as good as it can be. So I haven't had much time to play many games in the past. The only times I do play games is usually when I'm between a project, like when I'm finished a project, and then I will take like a couple months off to just play a game. So, but when I'm working on a project, I'm just like 100% in it.
What's next for Alpha Response? Anything you're particularly excited about that you can tease on the channel?
Yeah, well, aside from like bug fixes and just the general polish, I think the next big thing that we want to work on is teammate AI. So we've been getting a lot of requests to have like AI for our teammates. Like, because right now when you play one player, you're just like by yourself, but the number of enemies that spawn in will be less. But people want us to add like teammates, so then they can have so it can feel more like more like Ready or Not, or more like other co-op shooters where you can play with teammate AI. So that's a big feature that we plan on working on pretty soon. And also we want to add missions that involve the cars more, because we have these cars and we have these open levels, and right now we don't really have any missions that involve car chases. So that's a big feature that we want to work on, a mission that actually has the player like driving the car and chasing after another car. And so something like my previous game, Tactical Intervention, because there was a pretty fun mission there that we had with cars. So definitely want to do that. So yeah, just yeah. And also just sometimes the community will give us some suggestions, and we just kind of like take that, like we just read their suggestions on a daily basis and just try to decide which ones we feel like we should address first. But yeah, it's very it's like a work in progress. We yeah. So it's just something that we generally just kind of like take it day by day sometimes. But we do have a roadmap. We do have a general idea of what we need to do before we reach 1.0.
Where's the best place for people to follow updates or get involved with Alpha Response and your future work?
I would say our Discord channel is good, and also our Steam page, like our community page on Steam, that's very active. Like we're always on there, just reading them, and yeah, the Steam community page is great. So if you go to our Steam page, you'll see that we have a community page where people can post questions there. And also, yeah, the Discord is where we're also very active, and so that's a great way for people to kind of talk to us, like one-on-one live as well. So.
From humble beginnings and a dream to the mind behind the game that defined a generation, Min Lee's story isn't just about Counter-Strike. It's about what happens when one person dares to mod reality. If you ever felt like an outsider with an idea, or if you've ever stared at a blank screen and imagined something bigger, know this. Some of the most legendary games in the world started with nothing but curiosity, grit, and a little bit of code. To Min, thank you for the pixels, the headshots, the land nights, the rage quits, and the legacy.
Well, you're welcome, and it's been an honor to speak with you and to connect with the community. And I'm just humbled to know that people still enjoy this game that I worked on 25 years ago. So thank you for that, and thank you to the community for continuing to make Counter Strike the way it is today. All the wonderful weapon skins and all that. It's been awesome to just see what people have come up with. So yeah, thank you guys, and thank you for having me.
And to everyone listening, if you liked this episode, like, share, drop a comment, tell us what's your Counter Strike story. Until next time, defuse your bombs, don't peek mid, and remember, legends aren't born, they're modded. This was Daniel for the Fixed Gaming channel, and you just heard it from Gooseman himself.